Hello friends and welcome here. We are here for another episode. My name is Julianne and I'd like to welcome you to my little corner of the interwebs. We are here for another episode. I have a few things to talk about today which is unusual. If you are new around these parts, this is a little bit of a chat vlog kind of channel talking about all sorts of crafting things that I do, mainly knitting and quilting at this point in time, but I do dabble in a bunch of different stuff ranging from cross stitch to spinning, crochet, all sorts of things. So if you're interested in any of that sort of stuff, then please hang around, settle in, and we'll get on with what I have been making. But before we get into that, I would really love it if you could like and subscribe. If you aren't already subscribed to my channel, it really does help me out with the YouTube algorithm, and I am trying to build my channel this year, so any help that you could provide is greatly appreciated. Now let's get on to the knitting. Perhaps we could just talk quickly about the elephant in the room. It is summer here in Australia. Not that you would know. I don't know what the other states are doing, but not that you would know here in Adelaide at the moment. It is quite cold. It has been cold the last couple of days. And yeah, I am wearing a shawl today. It is a mohair shawl and all. So I'm here trying to keep a little bit warmer. I have been a little bit cold around the shoulders and the neck. And this is the Plumity shawl. Shawl is the word, not shawl. I'm not American. So this is a pattern by Melody Hoffman, and I knit this quite a long time ago now. It is basically just a big triangular shawl with this I think it's short rows. Yeah, it's a short row section on the shawl. And this is my own yarns. This is Lovebird Lane yarns. This is just natural undyed yarn. Then I have this dusky mauve colorway that I have used on the short row section. It's got gold stellina in it. I don't know that you can even really see that coming up on camera, but it does have gold stellina in it, which is quite pretty. And then mohair silk, so it's lovely and cuddly. It's super soft. I actually really enjoy knitting with mohair because it does have that sort of extra level of snugness and softness, and I really enjoy it. So I have got this on today. I have a long sleeve t-shirt and pants because it has been really cold. And the other elephant in the room is probably my hair. I did my hair on the weekend. I don't know quite why I purchased a neon pink hair color, but apparently I did, so I went with it. And I've also upped my makeup game today just to try and, you know, have my hair not wear me. Let's get on to some knitting, and as always we will start with some socks. Now I actually have a finished sock to show you. I have my very first speckled space sock off the needles. Unfortunately my leg, as I thought, did not get very long because I ran out of yarn. Well, I mean, I didn't completely run out of yarn. I do have just this little smidgy little ball left. But according to the pattern, you want to start your cuff at row 16 or row 32 or whatever it is. So basically halfway through the pattern or complete a pattern repeat. And unfortunately, I was not going to have enough yarn to do the full pattern repeat for this section of the leg. So I only got up to halfway through and then I started my cuff. And I have tried this on. It does fit. It feels quite comfortable. I was worried because of these floats that we discussed last week that it might actually make the top of the sock a little bit tight and therefore the leg as well a little bit tight. It has not. It actually is quite comfortable. I felt like it fit my foot really well, so I guess, I mean, the main result of how it wears will obviously have to play out in the wearing because I just tried this on the other day rather than actually wearing them as a pair, but that will of course have to wait until I have finished the other sock and the weather gets cold in general, because I am wearing socks today, believe it or not. Those minty socks that I dug out in my whip audit video, those bright green minty socks, I am wearing them today. So they've got their very first wear. And yet, because it's cold, my feet are getting cold. My feet tend to get a little bit cold anyway, so I stuck some socks on. But I think it'll be a little while until these get worn, because by the time this second one gets finished, I'd say the weather will be warming up again. So I have got a fair way through this sock. I think the two knitting projects that I have to share with you this week actually have re-sparked my knitting mojo a little bit. I know I said last week that I was sluggish in that region, that I wasn't really feeling like my mojo was around at all, that I was really struggling to get back into knitting as a constant or a consistent part of my life. It has been a consistent part of my life for probably the last 10 years, so gosh, I can't believe it's been 10 years since I taught myself how to knit. But yeah, these two projects have really, I think it's because they are both like easily memorizable. Like I don't look at the chart at all for this pattern anymore. Like I have completely memorized this little slip stitch kind of pattern, and yeah, it's just, I can just sit, I can just knit, I can watch TV, I can listen to a podcast without much effort. So I've been really enjoying it, and I am currently up to, if you can see it, I have started my gusset increases on this sock, so I don't think this will be very much longer until this is off the needles too, and I'll have a finished pair of socks, which is quite exciting because it means that I am sticking to it. I have issues, I always have had issues in my life with sticking to things. I tend to flake on things, just in my nature. I tend to be a little bit scattered sometimes, so finishing things isn't usually my strong point, but it's really encouraging to me that I can see that I can stick it out and I can actually finish something. So I will obviously be working on these in the next week, and I dare say they will be finished by the next time I talk to you, which is a pretty exciting prospect. And the next project is the thing that I think has really sparked my knitting mojo to come back, and that is my stripes sweater. So you might have seen earlier today, or yesterday, I uploaded a short showing you how to adjust your pattern in Knit Trick. I'm thinking I'm going to do a more long form video as well, explaining how to do that if you don't have the app, because obviously you can still work that out if you don't have the app. But I did cast on. I cast on the size 6 because working out, I'll put it, if I can put a short up in the card, I'll put it up in the card so you can hear a little bit, just, it's very quick, but you can hear how I chose my size. And I measured my bust. I was a 48-inch bust, which is what I think I said last week when I was talking about it, and the size 5 would only give me about 1.5 inches of ease, which is less than what the pattern asked for. The pattern asked for 2 to 6 inches, and I went up a pattern size, and I think that's going to give me approximately 5.5 inches of ease. And here it is. This is where I've gotten to. I have not yet gotten to the sleeve separation, but I am currently working on the yoke. Now, have I got the right side showing to you? Because there is short rows in the back. So this has been a joy to knit on. It is being knit from Wool and Vine yarns. So these were that palette set that I showed you last week. I'm currently using the black pearl that I did my swatch in last week. And I did mention last week that I was thinking of dyeing some black to go as the neckline, cuffs and hem, and I did not. I went ahead and cast on with the black pearl, and I think that was the right choice. I think if I was to dye a black skein, I probably would do it a little bit more saturated than what these colorways are knitting up. They're actually quite muted and painterly, and I think if I dyed a black, it would have been a lot more saturated and overwhelming to these colors. I'm not 100% sold on my stripe sequence, but I think once it's all finished and all together, because I'm thinking I could have reordered them. I don't know how I would have reordered them, to be fair, but yeah, I was not sure if I quite enjoyed the stripe sequence that I have created, but I think it will do. It will be fine. It will work out, and I will have a beautiful sweater come winter. For now, it is just knitting in the round, and I just need to get to the bottom of the yoke, do another set of increases, and then separate, I think, for the sleeve. So I'm trucking on, and then it will be on to the body and then Sleeve Island, of course, which is usually where I fall down on sweaters. It's the sleeves, especially in something like this, which is striped. So we will have to see. You guys will need to keep me honest on this one. You guys will have to be on my back to get me fit to finish this sweater if it starts to languish. So which of course I am asking you for, so I am completely open to occasional prodding, telling me to finish my striped sweater if I do not get onto that. But that is sort of all there is to talk about on this one. Yeah, I'm just knitting around and around till I get to the right length, and then I can move on to the next part of the pattern. But that has been very good potato chippy knitting. I have been watching a new TV show with my husband in the evenings, which I might talk about in a little bit, and this has been perfect for it. It has been the perfect accompaniment. So yeah, my striped sweater is going really well. And for a little bit of a change, I actually have some quilting this week, which is fun. I dug out the sewing machine on Sunday, I think it was, and got to finishing some of the squares that I had started for my hens and chicks quilt. So if you remember, this was a pattern that I had started that was a Missouri Star Quilt Co pattern, and this was one of the triple plays, which I've also told you guys about. I will link it again in the card so you can go and check it out if you would like. And these are the hen blocks. Yep, I'm getting threads all over me, which is just an occupational hazard, I think, when you're working with fabrics and textiles. But these are churn dash blocks, if you are not familiar, and they basically are a bar block and some half square triangle blocks. So I've done another 6 of these. These were partially started already. So what I basically just did was sew them together. All the composite parts were done, and I just went ahead and sewed them all together. And as a refresher, this fabric is from Riley Blake. The collection was called Sonnet Dusk, and I love it because it's like pinks and greys, and it's got these amazing lunar moths on them. I really like this fabric, actually. This one. It's kind of like a little ditzy kind of print, I think you probably could call it. But yeah, I just really like the colours in this one, like the mustards and the pinks and the greens. I really kind of want to use this fabric here as like a yarn colorway inspiration, because I really love the way all the colours in this fabric sort of play together. A couple more. There we go. So I've got another 6 of those done. Now I believe I have 3 more of these hen blocks that I need to do before I get onto the chick blocks, which is the blocks that have a lot more work needing to be done on them, because you have 4 of these guys per block, so, and they're much smaller. So I've kind of been putting them off. I've kind of been procrastinating doing those by doing these big ones, because small just seems fiddly to me. I don't know. It's probably not the case, and I have done one of those blocks, but yeah, for some reason small just seems a bit fiddly, and I'm a pretty impatient person, and I find that these are really good because these are like an instant gratification. They do not take very long to do. Like, you could knock a few of these out in one afternoon sewing, whereas the little ones I think are going to take me a little bit longer, because especially I want to mix them up. I want to have the because you've got 4 of the little churn dashes per block. I really want them to be really random, so I'm gonna have to basically make all of the baby churn dash blocks before I sash them and put them together in larger blocks. So I feel like there's just a lot more steps in that, and it's not as instant gratification as what I would like, but I'm gonna use my stick with itness, is that the word? Stick with itness and get it done. And finally, she is being worked on. I am finally working on this baby quilt that I had already pieced and put together. This is another Missouri Star Quilt Co pattern. Oh, I'm gonna get my lipstick all over it. This is the Turnabout Granny Square pattern, and I am finally sewing down my binding. So I only started this morning because I thought I should take advantage of the fact that the weather is so cold, because that is the thing that's been making me put this on the back burner, is because the weather has been so cold and I prefer to hand bind my quilts. I don't really enjoy running a stitch across, so you've got the visible line of stitching on the back. Like, I'll show you This is a bit that I have already sewn, so this is all tacked down. You can probably just see the little bits of dimpling where my stitches have come through there. So if I was to use to do this on a sewing machine, you would have a line of stitches that are really visible across the back of this binding, and I just don't prefer the look of that. It's not my favorite. It's quick, obviously, because you're binding by machine, but I don't prefer the look of it. So I sat down this morning and I have started this, and I am almost a whole short end done. I started just back from the corner here, and I'm all the way up to nearly getting to the first corner. So I've actually got quite a bit done this morning. I'm actually quite surprised. Usually binding quilts takes me a little bit longer than that, but I guess also it is a smaller size quilt. I think, is this the smallest that I've done? Probably not. It's probably about the same size as the very first quilt that I made, which is my ugly quilt, and I will find the video and I'll put it up in the card so that you can go back and have a look and see my ugly quilt. It's not so ugly. It's not really ugly. It was just the name. Ugh, bits of fluff going everywhere. It was the name that Karen from Just Get It Done Quilts called that pattern. So I've just been calling it the ugly quilt because that's what she called the pattern. So I've had a lot of comments going, your quilt is not ugly, and it's like, no, I know it's not ugly. I actually quite like that quilt, but it was just the name that Karen gave that particular pattern. So yeah, I'm hoping that I can get a bit more done on this today. I do want to be good with this one though, because I have made, trying to think, I've made 3 separate like finished quilts so far in my quilting career, and that is like finished as in top is done, it is quilted, bound, and in one case gifted. So like a complete quilt. I've done 3. I have a multitude of tops that are done or very close to being done, but just haven't gone through that final process of being sandwiched and quilted and bound. So this will be my 4th one, and I've got to get better at putting like labels, quilt labels on there that say when it was made, who made it, who it was made for, that sort of thing. Because quilts, I'm hoping my quilts, I don't know, you know, who knows what the future holds, but I'm hoping that my quilts will kind of outlive me. Potentially, like, you know, you see watching Jenny on Missouri Star Quilt Co, she often finds antique quilts in shops and things when she's doing some antiquing, and often they have little labels on them so that you know who made them, when it was made, etc. So I'm not saying that my quilts are going to last into perpetuity, but if they do, it would be fun, you know, for people in the future to see that Julianne made this. She made it in 2023, and you know, it was made for whoever. So that is something that I want to get better at. Like, even if I just say I made it, the year I made it in, and the pattern name, even if that's all I put on there, I just want to get better at putting in that final step of putting a label on my quilt. So we'll see how we go. I'm going to try and get a label on this one, because I think I'm probably going to sell this one in my shop, or at least list it in my shop and see if anybody is interested in buying it. And I think that would be a good starting point to be putting labels on my quilts. So that is something that I want to make sure that I do. So that is really all the crafty stuff that I have to talk about today. So I thought I would have a little bit of a wrap up of my week. It has been a bit of an eventful week. Granger ended up at the vet, and if you aren't aware, Granger is my dog. He's just shifted now that he's heard me say his name, and he is 13 years old. He's a German short-haired pointer. If you have not met Granger before, he's in a lot of my vlogs, so if you head back into my channel and check out my vlogs, you'll see him a lot. I think my Christmas Eve, Christmas Day vlog that I did for Vlogmas last year has got quite a bit of him in, so if I've still got card availability, I'll pop it up in the corner for you. And he ended up, yeah, at the vet on Tuesday, because Monday night I took him for a walk, and I noticed that he was kind of limping a little bit, and he had this very big kind of swelling on his elbow, and that wasn't usual. I didn't notice it that morning when I had walked him, so it seemed to come up really quickly. and I don't know whether he'd injured himself or something like that, but when I took him to the vet, she found another lump that was just behind the back of his leg, so a little bit like I said to her, was it muscle? And she's, oh, it's just under the skin. I don't, you know, I'm not entirely sure. So there was this swelling, and when she was sort of prodding the swelling, he was reacting quite vigorously. The first time ever I saw him growl and snap at someone, so clearly he must have been in a lot of pain, as the vet said. You know, she assured me that it was okay, because I was like, oh, he's never done that before, and she said, oh, it's okay, it's just, he's obviously in a lot of pain there. So she did a fine needle aspiration just to take a little bit of like fluid out of the swelling, and she said everything there looked normal. And so, you know, nothing seemed scary there. He didn't have a fever, apart from limping a little bit. He was acting normal. He hadn't lost his appetite or anything like that. So basically we left with, I think it was 10 days of anti-inflammatories and 10 days of antibiotics. So we're up to day 4 today of antibiotics, and pretty much that lump on the back of his leg went down within 24 hours. It was just gone. So I'm hoping that it was just a little bit of inflammation that brought that down. She thought perhaps that it was caused by an infection, which was why we got the antibiotics. I'm very much of like, for humans, definitely, if you don't have an infection, you shouldn't be having antibiotics. So I kind of feel a bit weird, because I don't know that he does have an infection, because the lump went down so quickly. But I'm just going to work on my vet's orders, and that is to give him the antibiotics until they are finished. So that is what we will do. But yeah, he doesn't appear to be in pain anymore. The really fluid-like swelling that was up on his elbow appears to have gone down quite a bit as well. I think that is nearly back to normal. I wasn't supposed to give him any exercise for 5 days, but he did walk to the post box with me this morning, just a short walk, because he was just... Who can resist puppy eyes? I mean, come on, guys. He was just giving me the biggest puppy eyes, saying, can I please go out, mummy? So I had to. I had to. I couldn't not. But we just had a nice gentle walk, and he was good, actually. Usually he pulls quite a bit. For a 13-year-old dog, he's got a lot of energy on a walk. But today he just stuck with me. I went at a pretty good pace anyway, because I wanted to get back home, because it's been quite windy. I don't like being out in the wind. So that is the saga of Granger, but it appears that he is doing well now, and will be fine. And I thought I would share with you a couple of things that I have started listening to this week, or watching, which has been quite fun. A couple of recommendations. It's not something that I have had for a while, because I haven't really been watching anything, listening to anything in particular, but I am a bit of a true crime aficionado, I suppose you could say, as probably a lot of you guys are as well. So I have started listening to a podcast called Up and Vanished, and the reason that I started listening to it was actually I had caught a show on Tubi TV. If you're not familiar, it's like a free streaming service that has I suppose they're not like the most popular commercial stuff, but there's quite a good amount of stuff to watch on there, like documentaries and all sorts of other things. Are not just documentaries, but that's mostly what I watch, because that's kind of my thing. I watch a lot of documentaries, or at least reenactment type shows, survival shows, that kind of thing. So yeah, I've been watching, I watched a show called Prime Crime on Tubi, and as one of those was an episode about Tara Grinstead, which was a woman who went missing, and I started listening to the podcast for that. So that's quite has been really enrapturing. I've been sort of binging it over the last couple of days. So if true crime is your jam, that might be something that you could look into. It is, I think the case is mostly resolved now, so it's kind of going back in time, because this podcast was a little bit ago. But yeah, if you like true crime, Up and Vanished is a good one. It's quite intriguing, very interesting listen. And another recommendation that I have is Poker Face. If you aren't aware, Natasha Lyonne has a new show called Poker Face, and that is really fantastic. She's basically a human lie detector, and she can tell when people are lying, so that has been a lot of fun. Simon and I have watched the first 4 episodes now, and yeah, I really recommend it. Natasha Lyonne is perfect as usual. I'm a really big fan of Natasha Lyonne, and if you have been flirting with the idea of checking that show out, I would 100% recommend it. We are just waiting now for the the next episode to come out. I think I probably better leave it there. That's kind of all I have to talk about this week. If you've got any recommendations for really engaging true crime podcasts, let me know in the comments down below. I've listened to all the usual suspects, you know, My Favorite Murder, what else do I listen to? I can't even think of any off the top of my head, but I have gone through quite a lot, but I do enjoy a long form, one case kind of podcast. So if you've got anything that you can suggest, please let me know down in the comments. I'm always open to that. And you know, if you've got any shows that you enjoy, let me know those as well. I'm not so much a TV show, I listen to a lot of podcasts, so podcasts is probably more where I'm at. But yeah, if you do have any TV show recommendations, let me know as well. Simon and I are usually on the hunt for something instead of just spiraling through YouTube every evening, so if you've got something that's good, do let me know. And if you would like to support my channel, you can do that in a number of ways. You can give me a like and a subscribe, and even share my video with somebody that you know that might enjoy this content. And if you'd really like to support me, I do have a link down in the description where you can buy me a coffee, and I can put that money towards my equipment here and improving my vlogs. All of that information is down in the description, where you can find me on social media and my newsletter for my shop, plus any links for anything that I've spoken about in the episode. They are all down in the description. So thank you so much for watching. I will catch you next week in the next episode, and happy knitting, happy crafting, and I'll see you later. Bye.